Welcome to Experts on Purpose. In today's episode, the special guest we have is Casss McCrory. Casss is a sought-after marketing strategist, speaker, and trainer advising large enterprises and startups as they take their message and products to their target audience. Casss is passionate about doing work and life with great intention, and that intentionality leads to success for projects and, most importantly, for people. Her clients include Accenture, Microsoft, Acumen, and solo entrepreneurs making their mark on the world. Hey, Casss, welcome to Experts on Purpose.
Oh, it's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I felt you are, one of the best person to be on this show because your purpose is also to help people show up on purpose and with purpose. So I felt that this is like the perfect match.
I love this whole idea of feeling of purpose and knowing that it's something that is always moving. It's a fluid experience. And so doing it with intentionality, it's so important.
Right. So true. So how did you get started, Casss? When did you become an entrepreneur and how did that whole thing happen?
Such a fun question to answer. So I have been as an entrepreneur for over 16 years now. Way back in the beginning of my career, I always knew that I wanted to support people that maybe wouldn't have had access to the big agencies that I was lucky enough to get to work within. And so I, on the side, would help friends or help a restaurant that I really liked develop their online presence and whatever that looked like. And over the years, it became a bigger part of the work that I got to do. And eventually it was something that I did full time. And it didn't take as long as I thought it would. I thought it was going to be, over the next decade that will happen. And it was really more like 18 months.
Wow.
And so I've been an entrepreneur that entire time. And when you're an entrepreneur, especially starting out, you say a lot of yeses. You say yes to a lot of things because you need work.
Yeah, it all looks like opportunities, right? Everywhere.
Yes, absolutely. And so as the business grew, I had to become more thoughtful about where I really wanted to work, how I really wanted to work, who I wanted to work with. And that intentionality really became how I was able to do everything that I was doing and still live a life that I loved.
Right. I think is that how your message also evolved? Because initially you were more like this marketing strategist who would just help any business. But now you are all about intentionality, identifying your values. So was it an easy transition for you to really become so specific about your message?
Easy, no. But it was one thing happened and then the next thing happened. And it wasn't planned. It wasn't like at the beginning, I thought, oh, one day I will be really hyper-focused on people that are very committed to the intentionality in their work. No way. I mean, I think it always happens I take one best next step and then I take the next best step. And sometimes I turn around. I'm like, wow, I really didn't like that the way that I thought I was going to. What a great learning. Thank goodness I haven't committed to this for the rest of my life. Right. And then you pivot and you make the next step in a different direction. I feel like purpose and intentionality, it's always been a thread. I think for as long as I can remember, and I would imagine that a lot of my clients would say that's why they enjoyed working with me because it felt on purpose. It was never without thought. It wasn't, well, everybody else is doing this, so we should do that.
Got it.
It wasn't, we could do everything, so let's do everything. It's always had this underlying of why are we doing this? I think part of the why, the purpose and intentionality, part of that becoming more of my forward-facing message is because I recognize that that's what other people want too.
Right.
And the work that we do from that place is always better. And so if I can connect with somebody on that level first, then I'm pretty confident that whatever we end up creating is going to meet everybody's desires and expectations.
So true, right? So you were always having that as a part of your, services to your clients. You were always having intentionality and purpose as the foundation, but you now brought it to the forefront,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And another learning that I'm getting from here, Cass, is you're saying it's absolutely okay to pivot, because when you're starting out,
Yes.
you will not know everything. You will start out with what you think you are good at, but after working with one client and the next, your message also gets more specific.
It does. And I look back and say, okay, here's one of the first projects that I worked on in my own kind of thought leadership, right? And I'll look at that and I'll say, wow, I am a different person today than I was then. And I'm glad that I'm not still doing that same thing, because I thought that I had made, I call them once and for all commitments.
Right.
The biggest once and for all commitments that I've made is to having these children that I have and love, right? Everything else outside of, my relationship with my husband is in that same category, but everything else is pretty up for negotiation.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to change, and having that permission to evolve and change, it takes making that best next step so much less scary, because you're no longer making this step that you cannot change your mind about.
Hmm.
One of the clients said to me this past week, she was like, well, I just don't know if I'm going to like it. And I was like, oh, that's wonderful. You get to try it. And she was like, oh, yeah, I do get to try it. I do. It's like, yes, you do. You get to try it and see. You're
Hmm.
not making a commitment before you even tried.
Exactly. Yeah. I see this as something very different from what a lot of business coaches teach. They all talk about strategy and plan and what's currently happening in the market and things like that. But your teaching is so different. In fact, in one place you mentioned that plans are the enemy of flow. So why do you
Yes.
say that?
So, way back at the beginning of my career, I was a project manager. And a
Mm-hmm.
project manager on a big project, what they do is they have this laundry list, long list of all of the tasks that all of the different people, and there were hundreds of people on this project, right? And so in the conference room across from my cubicle was a recycling bin that had the project plans that were no longer current. The current project plan was always on the wall, and all of the old ones, all of the things that needed to get changed, dates were wrong, things shifted. It was in this corner of the recycling bin.
Mm-hmm.
Within a 3-month project, that paper was touching the ceiling
Wow.
of the conference room. No plan goes as planned.
Right.
None. And even if you went to it with that energy of, I have a plan, it's going to go differently than you thought.
Right.
If you can hold space for it to go even better than you anticipated,
Hmm.
a plan will hold you back.
Right.
Sometimes we learn things in the process. It's like, wow, I really don't want to complete this next task.
Hmm.
Well, great. Don't. I've had plans, and then I've had a baby.
Hmm.
And then everything that I thought was going to happen was completely changed.
Right.
We've talked a lot about flow right now. It's a popular thing to talk about because flow feels like welcome ease. It's saying what's meant for me can't miss me. It's saying I enjoy the work. It doesn't feel like it takes hours and hours.
Hmm.
It feels really good.
Yeah.
And the best way to interrupt flow is to say, here's your plan, stick to it.
Right.
You
So
know,
the
as
so the best
author,
way to, yeah, yeah.
right? If you're in the flow and you're writing and you've got just this ideas and everything is just generating and you feel it and your timer goes off
Hmm.
so that you can do the next thing. Are you
Right.
happy that that timer went off?
Not really.
No, no, you want to keep going.
Yeah.
And having a little bit of faith and trust that everything that you need to get done will happen. It creates so much more invitation. Now, I plan, but I don't have a plan.
Hmm.
I have an idea.
Right.
And then we see where it goes.
Yeah. So I can sense a feeling of freedom here, because you have a plan that's there, but then you're not obliged to stick to it, because when you are in the flow, you can do something better than what you planned.
Yes.
So
Exactly
currently,
right.
Cass, who are the kind of people you work with and how do you help them?
I work with people within large organizations, so large enterprises, and I help them create a personal brand that aligns with their business goals and their personal objectives. I also help people in a coaching capacity in identifying their values and then taking those values into their life.
Right.
I think we've talked a lot over the last 18 months about feeling this feeling of burnout. And I felt it too, right? It's been a very taxing 18 months. And in my experience in working with over, 50 clients on this work, when we take action that is aligned to our values, not somebody else's, but ours, then we recharge.
Yeah.
We feel free. We have ease in our life and we feel like we're living on purpose. And figuring out what your values are and then being intentional about making sure that you're living your life so that you are living those values, it's the key to everything.
So true. With your kind of expertise, Cass, you could be working with anybody and they will still get lots of value from you. But how did you intentionally decide to work with people working in large corporations and help them align with their values?
First, I fell into it, right? This is not something that I planned on doing. It just evolved. I was working with them on one topic in marketing strategy, in digital, and then as needs represented and came forward, I was like, well, that's really interesting. I'd love to give that a shot. And I ask all of the time. I will say to people, I know that I may not be completely qualified for this. I'd love an opportunity to try.
Right.
Well, what are they going to say? No? Okay. Like, I'll ask somebody else. No problem.
Right.
But more often than not, I'm met with, yeah, why not? Give it a go.
Sure.
Sometimes I discover that I don't like it.
Right. So how was your first few clients with whom you were not doing the marketing strategy stuff, but the current work that you do?
The first few clients came in from my email list. So I have an email list that I've been developing and I've had for a very long time now, since my very first kind of iteration of solo work. And I sent out an email and said, I have this idea of what I'd like to do. I'm going to test it out. Would any of you like to test this out with me? I've got 5 spots that I'm going to do for about 6 weeks to see if it helps people, to see if I enjoy it, see if it's in alignment.
Nice.
And 5 people said yes. And I was like, for about 5 seconds, I was disappointed. Like, I thought, oh gosh, my list is not huge. It's 4,000 people, right? But I thought I'm going to have at least 10 or 15 people reaching out. But what I asked for was 5.
And you got that 5.
And what I got was 5, right? And so, like, what am I doing? Complaining and feeling bad about myself that I got exactly what I asked for. So I started working with those people and it was magic. It was fun. It was enjoyable for me. They were having great results. And I said, all right, well, I think I'd like to do a little bit more of this. And so I told them, I'd like to do a little bit more of this.
Mhm.
And that basically created referrals for 10.
Awesome.
And now it's a matter of if somebody feels like they're in alignment, I like their energy, they participate in one of my free values workshops, or maybe they're in another training that I do within an organization, and I like their energy, and they feel like they could use something that's going to help them get to the next level, I'll say, hey, I also do this thing. Would you want to be a part of that? And I create the invitation. It's kind of like a party. You have to let people know that you're having a party if you want them to show up.
Yeah.
And so I just let the people that I would want in the party know this is happening. And I'm very lucky at this point in my business that I have no scarcity of work. I have plenty of work. I have retainer work. I don't have financial stress. And it's me. It's my work. I've gotten us there. I feel very proud of that.
Yeah, you
And
should
it
be.
also, and it also makes me feel really free to say, I'm not for everybody, but if you're my people, here's what I have. Come to my party.
Yeah, I think that's such a good place to be, Cass, because a lot of people start out with scarcity that I'm not going to find enough clients. Will people value this and stuff? But I really like the way you started out this new dimension of your offering, where you just offered people to sign up, and after the first few people got results, they started just referring their friends because they loved what they got from you.
Yeah, I've never bought a list. I've never tried to sell somebody cold from an ad. You can do it, I'm sure. I mean, I'm getting pitches all of the time of how my business could be tripled by partnering with this new company that's going to give me all of these leads. And I always look at that and I think, am I missing an opportunity here? And I check in with myself and I think, is this how I want to intentionally grow? And it isn't. Now, it might be right for somebody else, but I can tell you it's not right for me. I don't want to scale from 25 one-on-one clients to 250. That doesn't feel good for me.
Right.
Even if it's possible.
Thanks for talking about this, because for a lot of business owners, the most important thing is decision making. And I can see that every decision in your business, you bring it back to whether it's aligning with you, right? Whether are you doing it intentionally? So being intentional really helps you in making the right decisions also, is what I feel.
Absolutely. And I know what my values are. My values are adventure, learning, and nurturing. If an opportunity comes in and it is going to be an energetic drain on those values, if it's going to be boring, if the people are terrible, if it has me stuck in my office more, then it's a no.
Right.
But if it is something that I'm going to learn, I like the people and I'm going to feel nurtured and I'm going to have an opportunity to nurture them, and there's an opportunity for adventure in there, oh, sign me up. I'm going to be a hard yes.
Yeah. So you're constantly bringing us back to this concept of identifying our values and being true to it. And since you're working with corporate leaders, every corporation has their list of company values, right?
Yes.
But you say that it's also important to identify your personal values. So how do you coach people in doing that? I'm sure it's a intensive process, but could you just give us listeners some tips on identifying personal values?
So I do have a workshop. If you go to cassmccrory.com, you're going to see I do a free workshop. I don't remember exactly when the next one is, so I'll have to go to my own website to look and see, but it's an hour. And it's a little woo-woo. I'm going to be honest. The workshop is visceral. We get into our bodies. We meditate first. We learn and remember what it feels like when something feels good versus what something feels bad. You know, our gut, that decision-making body that we have in our core, it's not a magic 8 ball. It's a yes or a no. It's a
Yeah.
hot or a cold. And so the meditation helps us get into that space. And then we think about the words. I tell you a ton of words. And you find out which one your core, your energy within your body is leaning towards. There's another way that we can do it, and everybody can do this, is think about the last time you felt that feeling of, I am exactly where I want to be. We all know that feeling, right? Like you are having this experience. It's the end of the day. You are outside. You are witnessing your children doing something amazing in the yard, right? You've just had a really thoughtful day. Write for 5 minutes about that memory. Don't come into it with an intention outside of that. Just share as much about why you have that feeling of, I am exactly where I'm meant to be right now. And then go back and look at the words that you used. What feelings were you feeling? Was it a sense of adventure? Was it you felt like you were being nurtured? Was it that you were learning something new? Look and see what you can pull out from your story in terms of values. And in my experience, some people are like, oh, I resonate with like these 20 words. No, it's like the grocery store. If you go to a grocery store with more than 3 things in your head, you will leave without one of them.
Yeah.
You can remember 3 words and play with those words. Think about, all right, if I were to do something that's going to help me feel a sense of independence, what would I do? If I were to feel, if my value is awe, how could I generate a feeling of awe today? And identify what those to-dos are and start to integrate them and see. I liken it to recharging.
Right. This is amazing. Cass, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the link to your 1-hour program and leave it in the show notes, because I think this is super essential for everyone, not just entrepreneurs or students or professionals. It could be useful for every single person, so that, as you rightly said, they don't feel that overwhelmed, that feeling of getting burnt out. And when all their decisions are based on their values, you automatically get into that state of flow.
You do. It becomes an aligning act.
Right.
It is about getting into alignment. When people talk about that. It's doing the work of being present, being intentional, living on purpose in alignment with your values. That's where you kind of hit that, you're in the lane.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One thing I noticed on your website, Cass, is you are inviting people to get on these one-on-one conversations with you. And I find it so rare in today's world, where entrepreneurs are all about automation and funnels, but you are all about having these personal conversations. So could you just tell a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it might in part be because I design funnels for big organizations, right? And I know how they work. I can see in marketing emails that come into my inbox like, oh, you're tapping on scarcity. Well done. Oh, here's your social proof. Congratulations. Right? Like, I see how this works. And I think that when the intention behind it is to be of service to the person that you're reaching, it's lovely. A lot of the time, it feels more of service to their business hitting their business goals, as opposed to of service for the person. And I just don't want to be a part of it. And I don't have to. And I think that there is so much deliciousness in this that everybody gets to do it their own way. And if you want to automate and you want to build systems that are going to help you do more things better, however you want to do that, that's fantastic. Like, good for you.
Yeah.
That's not personally what feels good for me. That doesn't feel like nurturing to me. That feels the opposite of nurturing. It takes me so far away from the person that I want to be of service to, that it's a drain. And I can't manufacture it. So it doesn't work for me. Okay. I found other ways to make my business work for me in a way that does feel really good. And I would hope that the biggest takeaway there is that you can do that too. And that doesn't make anybody wrong.
Yeah. It's just their way is different. Yeah.
It's just different. Yeah. And I would much rather have a conversation with somebody and be able to tell you in the inside of 10 minutes, do we jive? Could I help them? Could I learn from them? Does nurturing that person feel like a good use of my time? Does it feel aligned? Oh, then I'm going to show up. And it's not going to be, oh, I have another call, right? It's going to be with excitement and joy. That doesn't have, I don't get that feeling from the metrics on a funnel.
I can totally relate to this, Casss, because I used to have these buttons on my website where people could just go, it'll take them to the payment cart and they would sign up. And then once they enroll, I then realized that, oh my God, they are not the right fit. Then what do? You don't want to offer a refund. It's a lot of mess after that. So now I make it compulsory that I need to have that 30-minute conversation with the person to see if not just me, but my entire team should enjoy working with them. That's really, really important. Otherwise, there is a mismatch between the business goals, which are high, and the personal joy, which is like getting depleted.
Absolutely. Like if I'm not excited about it at the beginning, I'm sure not going to be excited about it at the 80% point when everybody is tired and this is hard and we've run into, stumbling blocks and other things. Like you've got to know. And there's ways that you can say, this makes sense for me. Everybody's got their own way. There's no wrong way. There's no right way. And it's so much easier to start than we let it be.
Right.
I'm always starting new things. It's probably really obnoxious. I failed at many, many things. And just doesn't bother me. I learned.
Right. Casss, I also noticed that other than all the good things you're doing for your clients and in your business, you also are supporting a cause to help women and children out of homelessness. So how did you decide to, attach yourself to a cause, and how does it feel?
It feels great. Number one, it feels really important to do that. I recognized that, I went through a divorce and I had a child, and I had a lot of resources available to me in that I had a loving family. I was never at risk of being homeless. Like I had means and I could work and I could, do things for myself, but I also had a lot of support. And a lot of women, especially when they're in a position of having young children, homelessness becomes a really tragic situation because they can't work because they have these children to take care of. They don't have the employment history to justify getting an apartment, or they might not have family where they are. And so I saw myself as somebody that very well, a different family, two different decisions on my life, I could have been in that spot. And if there's something that I can do either with my financial resources or with my talent that helps those women and children be in a place where they have stability and structure in their homes, then I will do it.
Thanks for sharing this, Casss, because I think by listening to this, at least if a couple of them can identify what cause is really close to their heart, what can they personally connect with, and make that as a part of their bigger purpose for running their business to support that cause, I think that would make the business so much more meaningful.
Yeah, it feels really good to say, okay, well, we're going to write this check to this organization. And we've supported different organizations over the years. depending upon where the need is. And, we've always looked to support organizations that are close to where I am in upstate New York. And the reason for that is I feel like if I have the ability to help somebody that is literally living 3 miles from me, then I must.
Right. Awesome. I just have one last question for you, Casss. I asked about some of your biggest achievements before you came on the show, and you mentioned about work that you've worked with Usher, you've attended the Grammys, you've been featured in Oprah magazine, and also making meals every single day for your kids. And that really melted my heart because you are putting talking about making meals for your kids in the same breath as doing all the amazing things that people would applaud you for. So congratulations, first of all, for being able to do this and that. And how does that make you feel as a mom? And how have you created your lifestyle in such a way that you're able to do both?
Yeah. First, I have a really supportive, amazing husband. So none of that could happen without a partner that loves me and appreciates how I want to show up in my life in more than just one role. So first, there's that. Second, for a while now, I have been walking through this cemetery, this Mount Hope Cemetery, which was near my office. And, as you're walking through a cemetery, you see the names, the family name, and then you see their roles. And it's always wife, mother, father, son, husband, loving brother, loving sister.
Right.
And nobody has their job title there.
So true.
No job titles show up there. And at the end of the day, nobody's going to remember, that Oprah magazine. No. But my kids are going to remember that mom always put M&Ms in the popcorn for snack time because it's joyful to find M&Ms at the bottom of a bucket of popcorn, right? Like there needs to be that, and how they show up as human beings and how I have the privilege of learning from them and with them. I'm going to get emotional, but that's the greatest thing that I will ever do. Please. I mean, the Grammys were very cool for sure.
Yeah.
But in the scope of what's the coolest thing that I've done in my life, it's 100% these 4 people. They're incredible.
Amazing, Casss. I can just feel what you're saying, because I think that's the biggest joy that we can cherish for our entire life. And thank you for bringing that perspective as well, because I know we are all these powerful women who want to achieve these big things, but it's all these day-to-day small things that matter so much, and recognizing them and being intentional about doing those things, that really makes a huge difference. So thank you once again, Casss, for coming on the show and sharing so many things, which is not typically, told by entrepreneurs. So thanks for that. And also, where can people find out more about your work? And if they want to work with you, where can they go check it out?
So I'm online at Casss McCrory, MCCRORY.com. I am Casss McCrory on all of the places. On Instagram, you can see my incredibly cute kids and my obsession with all plants. I am very obsessed with plants. I'm not shy about it. You will see both food, plants, and children there. So it's basically where you can see my values come to life. And for a more professional lens and for coaching and tips on having an intentional social media presence, LinkedIn is the place to go.
Perfect. I'm going to link up all the links in the show notes. Thank you so much, Casss. It was amazing having this conversation with you.
Such a pleasure. It was fun to be on the other side. Our episode of the podcast was one of my favorites. So also link to your episode on the Real Women in Business podcast.
I will do that. Thank you.